Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Joshua, and welcome to Conversations with Joshua T. Berglan. Today, we have a mystery guest. I mean, I know her name. And she's awesome. She's absolutely awesome, but I didn't know that until this morning because Urska Rubin, she is on this website called Matchmaker.fm, and it's not a dating website. It's like a podcast dating website. It's awesome. I've been on there for a few years, and I've been able to meet amazing guests from all over the world who doing all kinds of awesome, entertaining, exciting things. But the thing is, I didn't really know anything about Urska because there was really not a lot of information about her until this morning. In fact, when I got her bio, I didn't even really go, what am I supposed to do with this? I don't even know where to look. But as of this morning, when I went to go look to figure out, okay, what are we going to talk about? Because one of the things that she likes to do is Joe Rogan-style podcast. And I, being someone who likes that style of broadcast myself, go, let's do this. But I didn't really know what direction to go because, I cover a lot of really different topics, not just media stuff, but I mean, I get into shadow prisons and we have a broad variety of broadcast and different types of broadcast, a lot of different subject matter, a lot of different people. We're not consistent. We don't really fit into a niche at all, except being different. And, frankly, I wouldn't change that for the world. And you can see all that at joshuatberglan.com. But Urska, Urska, now seeing some of the work that she's done and some of the subjects she talks about, she may be my sister. I mean, I've never talked to her, but like maybe we share a brain a little bit, or at least part of it. But I'm excited to get into this. But one of the things that I probably will talk about, she did an interview talking about dissociative identity disorder, but she phrased it multiple personality disorder. And I'm curious if where she lives, I believe in Sweden, I'm wondering if they still call it multiple personalities there. I have DID, but I've never really called it multiple personalities. But that said, some people do because that's what it used to be called. So we may talk about that. But find out what she's up to and just have a complete hang, like just a conversation, which is actually my ideal kind of broadcast, not knowing what's going on, not knowing, we're not here to sell anything or promote anything. Well, hold on. I'm lying to you. Kinda. I don't work for this company yet. I don't, but I just did a video series talking about genostem peptides. You could check it out on YouTube. I may put it on my website. I haven't done that yet. I'm not kidding. If you're somebody with an autoimmune disorder, low testosterone, adrenal issues, brain, like your thoughts aren't with you, kind of losing it, maybe slipping a little bit, you should check out these peptides. This whole series I did was about peptide loading. And it's really interesting to learn because I learned a lot along the way. So I want to plug that series for you to check out. I'm not trying to sell you this product. I don't make money on it. I would sell it, to be honest. I really would. But one of the things that I like to do on my broadcast is talk about things that I believe that matter, that could help other people, benefit them. It's why I'm passionate about teaching media literacy. It's why I'm passionate about taking a spotlight and putting it on the shadow worlds that exist around the world, and everyone that I can find, everyone that I can verify is true. I made the mistake early in my broadcasting career of just assuming that because somebody appears to be good, that they're good. Silly me. Having been a mask wearer myself, not the kind, never mind, I'm not going to open that door. I kind of like my standing on YouTube being good right now. Anyway, I'll tell you what, I'm going to shut up now because I'm really excited to talk to our guest. And I do recommend you check out the peptides. Just watch the videos. It's very informative. It's on YouTube. Just look up my name, Joshua T. Berglan. It's there. And I want to give a shout out too to my friend who is got one of the most inspiring stories ever and shocking story. I have a very shocking story. It's in a book called The Devil Inside Me. It's a scary book. It's all true, but it's scary. And I don't really identify with that person anymore. Thank God, literally. But this man has an amazing story himself. And he is a good dude. And he's a chef, and he's very talented. He can sing. He's just a neat guy. And so Tony from InchiWenchycom, I want to give a shout out to you. I love the work that you're doing. I love that I still haven't tried this enchilada sauce that's so amazing. And I'm watching all of these video reviews of people just losing their mind over it. You know, so I want to give a shout out to him, because anyone who can take their life and a life that, and he's going to tell his story here in like 2 weeks on my broadcast. And so I don't want to spoil it, but to see what he's come out of and the man that he's becoming is a very special thing, and it's encouraging. So if you like supporting people on the come up, people that are defying the odds, please go check out InchiWenchycom. Thank you so much for being here, and I am so excited to have Urska on Conversations with Joshua T. Berglan. See you soon. We're recording. All right, now we're recording. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Conversations with Joshua T. Berglan on the World's Mayor Experience. So happy to have you here today. I'm already, like I said in the opening, I was pretty excited. I'm really excited now, because I think this is going to be a vibe. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say her guest name, because in the intro I said it wrong, but I'm going to try to say it, and I'll let her make fun of me. Urska. No?
Do I say it how it's right, or do I just?
Yeah, no, please correct me, because I don't want to insult you by saying your name the way I think it's supposed. It's like, never mind, I'm not going to use that example.
Okay, so
Urska, can you say it?
People tend to have this problem with r, you know, the r. It's kind of like, I know it's I mean it's really Russian when you hear it, right? It's like, but does it sound hot, or does it sound like I'm about to like kill Ukrainians, literally? No, really.
But I
But
have
still, like,
Ukrainian friends that sound like that too, though. So, I mean, what do you do with that? Like, and does it sound hot? Yes, but I have a thing for Eastern Europeans and Swedes, of course. So like, who doesn't?
why does everybody have a thing for Swedes though? Like, I'm starting to be jealous of these people, man. They're better than us on everything, better economy, and including being happy. You know?
Oh, it's in the Happiness in the Blue Zones. That book. It taught are you Swiss? Is that what it is? You're from Sweden?
No, I'm from Slovenia, unfortunately.
Oh boy, I really got that wrong. I really need to take a geography class. You know, one of the things about having a learning disability growing up is that I didn't really study a lot of things that I was told to, but I was really good at going and finding the information I wanted to learn, but I didn't know how much that I really wanted to learn other cultures and to travel the world. I didn't know those things when I was young. And so now looking back at it, I'm 44 and I'm trying to catch up. But I should learn a map. Of course, then again, I don't even know what map to really look at, because how do we know the maps are honest?
Holy shit, that's like that's a really good question. I mean, I guess you take it for what it is. You know, it is what it is. Like, you know, I remember, like, as a kid, did you have any learning disabilities, or were you just like totally not interested in learning whatsoever?
No, learning disabilities, but I mean, I understand what all that is now. And it was just the way that I was being taught, because the facts are that I am really smart. What I seek to go learn, and the way that I understand to learn now, like knowing how to learn for me, I can now learn anything I really want to learn. I mean, I taught myself how to code. I taught myself how to do all of these other things with media and technology and AI and VR. And like, I taught myself how to do all that But if you set me in a classroom setting trying to learn that, I would be completely lost. I love the way Google teaches. I have a bunch of Google certifications. The way that they teach is perfect for my brain because I can't listen to you and learn. But if I can listen to you and see you talk and read what you're saying at the same time, then I learn it pretty well. And then, of course, I have to go try it myself, mess it up a whole bunch of times, and then kind of make it my own. And that's how I do things.
Interesting. You know, when I was little, I was really struggling. Well, not really little, also in middle school and some of it, some of the high school. I was struggling with stuttering, you know.
Oh,
I wouldn't even know how to start a sentence. In my mind, I knew what I wanted to say, and as I was starting a sentence, I was like, you know, I still remember I had a presentation in my middle school. I had to do a presentation or something, and I was sitting in front of the class, and everybody was looking at me, and I said, "Oh, fuck, I don't like, I already know I'm not gonna be able, like, I can't do it. I know what to say. I know the whole text, but I can't start." And I started, I was like, and everyone was like, what the fuck is going on? You know, and like for a few for 5 seconds I was like, you know, like because I couldn't do it. um and I also remember like sitting in a restaurant trying to order something. I wanted to order, um what was it, some sort of a drink. I think it was like herbal tea. I think it was herbal tea. I was reading the menu, and because you kind of know you're not going to be able to say it, right? Like just
like your
you just
name.
know it. You're able to forecast it, you know, when you're in this for a while. And I was like, okay, herbal tea. I'm not, yeah, this is not going to work. And then like the waitress comes, and I knew it, and I was like, fuck it, can I just get a Coke? You know, like fuck this shit. And then I had to drink Coke, you know. It's not, I mean, it's really I was struggling with these things, you know. I couldn't
I
start a sentence.
I 100% relate. When I would try to read out loud, I would stutter. And I couldn't figure out why, but it carried into college. And when I left, so it was my second year in college. I just moved to Florida, Boca Raton, Florida, to go to school. But I also had a job, and I had worked in healthcare for a long time before I got into media, and love that industry. But my boss was this 5'6", black-haired, bright blue-eyed Italian woman, and was feistier than anything I've ever seen. And I remember she was teaching me, and like I knew my area of medical equipment really well. I was like an idiot savant. I'd been in the business for at 16. I was just good at what I did and adapted really well to that industry. And I loved fighting for people. And that was a big recipe for my success. But when I went to go work for this company in Florida, I had to learn a whole new industry or part of the industry that I didn't know before. Anyway, so long story short, she's training me, and we're going to doctor's office, cold calling, and I'm watching her, and she would walk in, and she'd kick open the door, act like she owned the place. The doctors would do whatever she said, and I'm like, oh my God, who is this woman? So then, by the third or fourth doctor we go to see, she puts me right in front of. She goes, "Okay, it's your turn," like right before the doctor walks in, and I'm, oh God. So I'm trying to remember my training. I'm trying to remember all the stuff that I just been taught. And I start trying to talk, and I'm stuttering, and I'm just eating my own ass, which is an expression. And but I'm just embarrassed. I'm sweating profusely. I mean, it's hot, so hot in South Florida anyway, but I'm sweating my face off. I'm embarrassed. I'm stuttering. I'm losing my mind, and she won't save me. She's just letting me embarrass myself until it's over and we leave. And after I finally finish whatever I was trying to say, as soon as we get out of the office, and this lesson impacted my life forever. But she pulls me outside, and this little 5'6", I'm 6'2", kind of big guy. She's poking me. "Don't you ever embarrass me again. Don't you ever do," and poking me and saying. And I'm like, but I couldn't remember. I was trying to remember all my training. She goes, "I don't care about your training. I want you to talk from your heart, just like you did when you walked in the door and sold us on hiring you in the first place." because I never was asked to apply for that job. I walked in and I said, I can help you. And that's literally how I got the interview to the job, and I spoke from the heart. And to this day, I am a heart speaker. And when I speak from the heart, I don't stutter. But one of the things that I've had the opportunity to do is act and do voiceover work and do some commercials. So I had to learn how to read copy, which I was a stuttering idiot. So it's taken a lot of work for me to get to this place where I can read and talk at the same time without stuttering. But it's not always easy. Like, I'm 44 and I still can struggle with it sometimes. It's real. Yeah.
Interesting. I don't struggle anymore. I think how I broke it was I just said, you know what, to hell with everything. I'm just gonna speak. Like if I stutter, I'm gonna be stuttering as long as possible. I won't care anymore because I'm like done feeling like I'm embarrassing myself. So for a long while, I would start sentences not giving a fuck. Actually, I would be like, can you gig, and I wouldn't care. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stutter. Like that's me. Wait for me to finish a sentence. And then as I started doing that, like, after a while it got away. Maybe it has something to do with shame, this stuttering. I don't even know. It has
Or
something to do with,
insecurity.
right?
Or
Yeah.
insecurity. As you're saying that, the word insecurity popped in my head. And that would make
Yeah.
sense for me because for there are a lot of reasons I would be insecure, not confident in reading, be chasing the words around the page. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Also, because I remember now when I could start a sentence stuttering and then some break would happen, like somebody dropped the glass and it fell on the ground and it broke, or someone yelled outside of the window. Like something shifted in me, and all of a sudden, now that this happened, like some clash of events, now I can say it. So it has to do with that, you know? It's so interesting. Our man, we are just too complicated for our own.
Oh, I think we overcomplicate things. So speaking of that, the one question that I thought of that I wanted to start this interview was not the one I just asked you,
Hmm.
but what are the questions in life you want answered, but can only seem to get opinions on? In other words, the areas that you want absolute truth. You want to know the absolute truth, not an opinion, not a perspective. What are the questions that you have that you desperately want absolute truth on?
Hmm. Is the path that I'm on the best path for me in this life? Like, what am I doing? Am I playing the right game? Am I doing something that is going to work long term? Am I
That's a
doing it right?
that's a great question. Wow, that's not what I thought you were going to say either. So that makes it even better. Wow.
Yeah.
So what? So along the way, like this path, like what is what is the path that you're on? Do you want to describe it?
Okay. So I'm currently, when are you going to post this, by the way?
I'm going to start on it today.
Oh shit. Well, anyway, I'm working at an agency as a real estate agent, right?
Mhm.
Well, recently I realized that, man, this shit is not for me. I'm just not doing this. Is very temporary. I'm just buying my time here. I really want to be a full-time podcaster. I'm getting there. I started to grow now for
Yeah.
whatever reason. That's good. So I want to know if what I'm doing is enough. Is it enough for like every day that I have? At the end of the day, I ask myself, was I productive enough? Like, is this the path that I should be on? Am I shifting somewhere that I don't know? Because I I don't spend enough time on things, I believe. I think like I think that in order for you to be successful, you have to spend at least like a lot of time on something. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe it's about productivity. I just want to know if I'm doing everything I can to get to the place where I want to be. And I don't know. I really don't know.
Can I give you one confirmation that you are?
Yeah.
Okay, here it is. You're learning media. It's the most important thing that you can to learn right now, because where we're going with technology in the future, and it's happening like so fast. I've been telling people for 4 or 5 years that this was coming, and like, you need to prepare and get ready, because the sooner you prepare, the more ready you are for the change. Because when the change happens, it's like this. But the future is independent media, and where we are our own media organizations. And so right now, with the podcasting and the YouTube channel and these other things that you're doing, you're starting to inch into that world. It's more than that, because the thing about media that's special is the amount of revenue streams that are built into it automatically. But when the problem that people make, especially in the podcasting world, is that their links are all over the place. They're trying to promote iHeart, they're trying to promote Apple, they're trying to promote YouTube, they're trying to promote everything but the one thing that they actually own, and that's their website. That's their domain. That's their own platform. So it's great that you can be on all of these other channels, but the truth is, all you're doing is making them money, and you've entered yourself into, pardon the term, but it's a slave system. I'm sure you've heard of the music industry and how corrupt that can be, and that being a slave system. We're doing, as content creators, by being on other people's platforms and promoting those platforms, we are slaves. YouTube monetization. You can have 1 million views and not get paid what you would get paid for 100 views on your own website.
Correct.
So that's one example. So, but you're on the right track, and the best way to go about it is by using these other platforms and learning. But ultimately, what you want to do, and I will die on this hill, you want to centralize all of your intellectual property into one place, and that is your website, preferably your name. So then from there, everything that you create, your podcast, your book, movies, documentaries, courses, clothing line, services, anything, real estate. You can still do real estate, but then you're doing other stuff too, because we need the revenue streams, one, to be able to really thrive in this new world, but also it makes sense to take advantage of that. And you're early enough in the game that you could shift to self-hosting if you wanted to, or at least at minimum put the YouTube player on your website. But that's a start, but you're doing it. So you're in the right direction. And here's the thing. This is the other point that I want to make, and then I'll shut up and we'll move on. Or at least for I'll be done talking. But when you create your own platform, it almost doesn't matter what you do. Yeah, I mean, yes, it matters, but you can take creative risk. You can say, you know, I don't want to do a podcast that fits this bio that I wrote for this show. I kind of feel like doing something else today. I want to do a documentary, or I want to play a character today. Well, when you have your own platform, you can create that little section, and that's just a thing. It's your portfolio. In this world that we're going into, that's the way to do it. So right now they want us to niche and just focus and talk about the same thing. Like YouTube, you're rewarded for that. Twitter, or X, you're rewarded for that. All of these platforms reward you for talking about the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. Those days are done. That's about to change. So what I would suggest to you is let your creative heart sing, take creative risk, but do it from your platform. And always be and be true to you too.
Definitely, yeah. This niche, like, I mean, you're just putting yourself in a very competitive environment if you're in a niche, because there's a lot of people who can do it. There's not a lot of people who can have your personality and be you. And this is why people stay on your platform instead of somebody else's. Because if you have a niche, you're constantly going to have to look for better content, look for better question to answer, better video to make. That's a better topic. I have a better SEO. No, be you. And then in time, you know, people are going to come. And I understand it's hard, because if you have a niche, you can grow faster initially, because people know what you're about. They're going to subscribe to it, but they're not subscribing to you. They're subscribing to the content. If you're just being a person, you know, then after a while, like it's gonna take it's gonna be a marathon instead of a sprint. But the people that are here, like they're ride or die folks. They're there to stay because they're here for your personality, and you can be creative and you don't have to burn out, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the thing, is it's burnout. If you go to my IMDb page, I'm not self-promoting here, but I've created a ton of different broadcasts. I mean, I think about 8 or 9 officially. No, more than that. There's some unofficial ones too. But I could create all these because what would happen is I would be really passionate about this subject matter that I was in. And then I'd be like, I would find myself having to like not make stuff up, but stretch myself in a way or force myself into this box to be able to do that broadcast again when I really didn't want to fit there. And for somebody with DID, where my moods and personalities and shift, and basically I'm literally a different person with different ideologies and everything else, then that gets complicated. And so when I first try to go, I did this broadcast called I Am Joshua. And what that was supposed to be was a reflection of all of my different personalities. So whatever showed up is what you were going to get. I got nervous and insecure about it because I am a man of faith, but it was almost like I was contradicting my own faith with some of the subject matter I was talking about, but I felt like I needed to talk about it. And I wasn't fitting in that box. And so then I got insecure. So it took me a couple years to say, you know what, F it, I don't care. I'm just going to be me, and I'm going to die being me. And whether I'm accepted or loved or whatever, then that's not up to me. I don't have anything to do with that. I can only do the best I can do. And the only way I can be the best me is be me authentically. For whatever good or bad comes out of that, as long as I'm true to me, I'm okay. And I can live with that. And I've now found success in being that. And I wish I wouldn't have taken so long, but I also trust the timing of how things play out too.
You have DID. How many personalities do you have, and what are they?
6 that I know of. Jessica, my
Oh,
partner, seems to think that it's closer to 8, but I've only learned to get to know 6 of them. And this is going to sound really weird. And it's so uncomfortable to say because it's so weird, but I've said it before, so I'll say it again. I know them. I know which one's showing up based on the sexuality of the person.
what sexualities do they have? Like all 6 of them?
Well, so I mean, there's bisexual, there's
Okay.
trisexual, as in try anything. There's gay. I have a gay altar. I have an asexual altar, and then I have like a normal, straight, conservative Christian altar. And but I know it's noticed by the fluctuations of what I see. Now, that used to be more pronounced, and I've done a lot of radical healing. And so now the way that it's kind of meshed together in a way, or it's meshing together, is not really identifying with anything and just trying to be like water. So what would happen when I would shift in these, when I would say shift to like more of a gay altar or even bi altar, I would try to shut that down because at that time I believed that God saw me as an abomination. So I would try to shut it down and I would suppress it. And by doing that, all I really did was stir up stuff that didn't need to be stirred up. And and it caused me a lot of problems that way. And also in even my relationship, it affected me because I was afraid to go, oh, I'm gay today, or I'm bi today, or I'm I'm completely asexual today, or I'm like the woman that's chosen to love me and that we do life together. I'm so grateful for her because she's been willing to ride that wave and love me all through it. There's a couple of the altars she hates, and they don't really come around that much anymore, thank God. But it's because I think of the way that I've adjusted my life and I'm living. But she's ridden that wave. But looking back at it, on the women who were with me, the women that I was married to that didn't know, that didn't know how to deal with it, because I didn't even know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to, I didn't understand any of it. It was so weird. It was confusing for me. It must have been hell for them. It must have been hell. And then and I think about my life as an evangelist, and what I would share from stage about where I was at. Like, I know I contradicted myself because the person up there speaking was different a lot. And I didn't know what was real for me. I didn't know what was true. And so now I've given up on, I'm seeking truth always, but this belief that I know what's true has gone completely out the window. And I'm literally trying to just focus on being as fluid in life as possible. And that's not a sexual reference. It is like a third, it's not a direct sexual reference, but it is towards my sexuality. But I'm talking about being fluid like water is, and just going with it, and then just trying to remain as true to my principles and true to being a man that loves and that serves and that cares about other people and wants to help. And when I recognize that that is not the heart that I'm coming from in that day, I don't show up. I don't come on camera. I don't go out in public. I don't really communicate with other people, because I need to guard that part of myself, because I don't want to make it worse or trigger it into something it doesn't need to be. And that's what happens. So I'm very blessed to have an amazing support system, amazing coaches, amazing friends that kind of help keep me in this fluid state, so that I don't have any real hardcore shifts anymore. That's the one blessing. Yes, I in the grocery store, I switched in the grocery store like that, out of the blue, like completely blue. Like, I don't even know it. Literally, I don't even know how it happened. We were at the checkout line, tomatoes dropped, and when I tried to pick them up, I switched, and then I had this momentary like freak out, and I can only think it was God, but my two daughters are with me, and they know that I have DID. One of them grabs my finger, and it brought me back. So I feel like I'm surrounded by angels a lot, that I've been able to navigate life in the way that I have, because at first it was very, very ugly and dangerous and risky and scary and violent and perverted and weird and just wrong. But this healing journey I've been on for the last 8 years has allowed me to understand myself a lot better. Even though I don't really understand myself, I understand myself better, and I'm able to function at a much higher level than I've ever been able to before. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think a lot of it, what you just said, is something that other people have as well, but they just negate it, they ignore it. Because I don't think I've given up on truth long ago, man. I just try to, I just try, I try not to lie in my life instead
Yeah.
of trying to tell the truth, because who the hell knows what the truth is? And because I've noticed myself, recently I started paying attention to what I'm saying every day, and I noticed that like a huge proportion of it is little white lies. It's like, oh, I don't have time. Yeah, I did that already. Okay, I'm not gonna make it because I'm feeling worse. I'll call you later. All of these are lies, and it's like, okay, someone can say those are little white lies. Yeah, but they add up, and every time you tell a lie, no matter how small it is, it reduces your consciousness. Because like there's a map of consciousness. It goes, I think, from 20 to 1000. It was done by a scholar. So you have like mystics, or what would you say, like gurus. They have a conscience of 700, and then you have people living in like extreme poverty, very in rural areas, with a conscience of like 30. And how you see the world and how the world reflects back to you has to do with your conscious, right? Your consciousness. I don't know who said it, but like one of the most important questions is deciding whether you live in a friendly or hostile universe, something like that. So whatever you put out there, whatever you get, it's a reflection of what you put out. So there is no such thing as truth. I really don't think so, man. Everyone has their own reality that they live in.
Yeah. And oh, gosh, wow, this is like in real time an argument. I try not to even argue with people because I know that we're just arguing opinions. And even when you tell somebody, I have no interest in arguing with you about this because none of us know absolute truths. And somehow that gets twisted into them trying to force more of their truth on you. I'm going, do you not understand where I stand? I'm saying I don't know absolute truth. I have my faith. It's a blind faith, but I don't trust anything that man has his hands on because I know man is a bunch of corruptible little boogers. And that's just how it is. And people, and I'm not going to trash the religious community at all, but it's sometimes people work so hard at telling others about like that, how they need to be like Jesus, that they forget to be like Jesus themselves. Like they're telling everybody how wrong they are and their interpretations are wrong. And it's like, what are we doing? None of us were there. We don't know. Like, we don't know anything. And it's like, and the only absolute truths I ever seem to know are when I feel like God's telling me something and then it proves to be true later. But that truth is for me. It doesn't mean it's your truth. It doesn't mean that because this is what God told me, that that's what God was telling you too. And that is a mistake that people make. And the more I've been away from ministry and been able to look at it from more of a universe down look, I'm realizing that we are just distracting ourselves with a bunch of noise that doesn't really mean anything, and none of it is moving it towards the purpose we were created for. Arguing about things that we don't really know the truth about is such a waste of time, and it's just such a weight on our spirit that I don't know how any of us can be high vibrating human beings doing any of that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I learned how to argue correctly. I think it's an art, and there's so much listening and arguing. It's incredible. So there's this strategy. I don't know if you call it like a steelman strategy. You know that?
No, tell me.
Okay, so you're arguing with someone, you disagree with them, and then each one of you, like you tell what you think, they tell you what they think, and then you switch. Okay, so what you have to do is you have to present their case as if, well, what would you, huh? You have to argue for them. In which areas do you see they are right? And then they have to do it for you, right? So you take their case with an opinion that you don't agree with, and then you have to formulate an argument that makes sense why, what, which area of the argument is real and rational from their point of view, right?
Yeah.
So it's a steelman strategy. I mean, it's best to show you an example, but it's really effective, very effective. And someone can say, but do we really need to do that? Like, really, do we really need a strategy for arguing? Yeah, actually, yeah, we're so complicated, we need a strategy. We need to treat it like a game.
It is a game. I do my best to get out of them as quickly as possible. I've found when people make fun of me or attack me for something, like I try to be as clever about my response as possible to be able to shut down the argument while being nice and not saying anything I need to be ashamed for or apologize for, but it's just shutting it down. But I got to tell you, internally, I'm a fighter, I'm a wordsmith, and I'm really, really good at breaking people down. And I mean, I'm good at building people up, but I'm really good at tearing people down. And I'm not proud of that. I'm not proud of it at all. But I try to refrain from that because the person that wants to engage in that nastiness is out for blood. It's not out for, it doesn't even care about winning. It's about punishing you and making you look fucking stupid. Pardon my French, making you look stupid for even trying to step up to me because I know that you don't know what you're talking about. And I can take your talking points and dismantle them in seconds. But I don't want to embarrass somebody. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. I'm not about that life. I'm thinking it, but that's not my heart anymore. Like I don't want to do that. And I see this fighting, like everyone's fighting each other. People that were on the same team a week ago are fighting each other. It has escalated this week, unlike anything I've ever seen before. Like Twitter, I love Twitter because Twitter is a sport, or it's a sport. If you are there with an opinion, be prepared to engage because it is, especially if you have followers and all of that stuff, it is warfare sometimes. And I've tried to navigate that world in a way that's respectful as much as I can. But I got to tell you, it tests me a lot because I want to win. I want to be right. I want to be the one with all the truth. But the facts are, I don't really know shit.
Yeah, yeah. I want to be the intellectually superior one as well. It's something that I really want to do, but but these online comments, I noticed that when people comment online, whether it's a video you post or a photo or a post or whatever, your initial reaction is you think that this person that's commenting has some sense that it's a normal person, right? You are, you forget about the fact that like the more demeaning the comment is, like the lower class that person is, like as you can spend an hour arguing with someone thinking they're kind of on your level, status wise and intellect wise and all that stuff, but they just got fired yesterday. They broke up with their husband and they're living in a studio or with their mother, and they're fat. And those are important qualities that we don't see behind a profile. We don't
Especially
know who we're arguing with.
yeah,
Yeah.
arguing with a meme seems like the strangest thing ever. I'm all for people's personal privacy, but I gotta say, if you're on social media, I think you should have to show your face because there's a lot of damage done by bots, faceless people, and I mean some of my friends on X are faceless people for the most part. And I enjoy it, but I just take it for what it is and not anything personal. But I do think that it would be better, especially when communicating. Like if you're going to say something vile or racist or disgusting or be judgmental or any of that other stuff, you should be an adult enough to be able to show your face and your name. Like, don't say stuff that where you're hiding behind some safety measure because that's not tough. That's not really proving anything. It's showing weakness, if anything. But I
Right.
don't like that part of it at all. So, okay, let's I like that truth question a lot. I want to talk to you, your guest that was on talking about multiple personalities.
Mhm.
I didn't get to see the whole episode yet, but I do want to ask you, was that your first time really talking to someone about that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. What was and there's a lot of people. So there's a lot of people that watch my broadcast that come from horrific abuse, horrific satanic ritual abuse. Like, I mean, just some wild stuff and wild experiences. So they're this conversation's comfortable for them. But that said, having that been your first time exposed, what was one of the biggest surprises for you?
That's a good question. Naturally, I'm extremely open-minded, like extremely open-minded. So to me, it was like, interesting. Well, okay, okay. Like my initial, my biggest question was, in practicality, how does that work? So when you drive and you switch to your persona who is a child, how the fuck does that work? Or when you're doing something and you switch, just these practicalities, how do you cope with that? Like, can you even drive a car? So to me, it was more of interest than anything else.
I don't drive. I mean, unless if I have to, but I make a practice out of not driving, and I definitely don't drive long distances. Unless, I mean,
Oh,
sometimes when I'm with Jess, I will, but that's only if it's a road trip. But that is like we try not to do that. Um, because you're right. I don't trust myself driving. I wouldn't give myself a driver's license at all. I haven't driven since I was homeless in a car, and I won't own one. I prefer to drive, to ride, be a passenger, like in an Uber or a cab or or Jessica drive. I don't, and I also don't own guns.
Interesting.
I'm
Because
but
I
I'm
am.
really good with booby traps though. Because that takes time to do. Gun is too instinctual, and like or not. In other words, it could be an impulse thing. I don't want to be near it.
Mm,
But booby traps, like I'm good
interesting.
with those. Yeah,
Yeah, and also just to what extent does your other personality go, your alter, like if that's a blind person, your alter, for example, does that person actually go blind? Or let's say it's
that's a good
somebody
question.
who's like handicapped, do you like not feel your leg when you have that alter, or I mean, it's incredible how deep these alters can go and how it can affect you. See, we were speaking about the absolute truth before. That's like the extreme version of the fact that there's no reality, because if you can go blind, anything can be true. you know
Uh, I mean, I've heard people talk about believing themselves pregnant, and belief is a powerful thing. I mean, again, going back to being an evangelist, I believed that men could make man, as in man or woman, could make a leg grow. So I was an evangelist in the Pentecostal church. So it's like laying hands, praying, falling out,
Hmm.
praying in tongues, all of that. A lot of miracles, a lot of supernatural. That's kind of what that faith is all about. And I totally get it. So any of you who are watching from my old evangelist days, I'm not making fun of you, because I totally get why you believe what you believe. Because coming from the place that we came from, that darkness, that evil, we almost need something supernatural to change our lives. And in my case, I did have a supernatural experience, but legs are not growing out of people's bodies for some pastor. When I learned that trick, my head almost exploded. I started asking a lot of difficult questions to my lead pastors and spiritual mentors that they wouldn't answer. They would tell me to stay in my lane. Don't tell me that, because I'm going to go digging. And when I went digging, I started to learn all of these secrets behind how all of these phenomenons were happening. And I'm thinking, I wonder how many people actually know what they're doing. Like, do they know what they're doing is evil? Do they know what they're doing is manipulation? And the leg lengthening thing, I think you would have to know, because it's a shoe trick. But it's disturbing. And these guys are making billions of dollars, traveling the world, preaching, doing these miracles. And it's so screwed up. Like that wrecked me. That was one of the worst experiences to find out ever.
And there's also a difference between belief and faith. I think what you
True.
speak about is you have something that you have to hold on to, like you need it. That's belief. Faith, it's about letting go. That's what you
Mm,
said before. I think you're in faith now. You went from belief to faith because you said you're like in water, right? So you're a sailor on the
yeah.
water. That's faith. Look, I'm letting go of everything, like just let it be. And then belief is something else. What is this process about making your leg grow? How does that look like? How do they do it?
So, okay, let me take my shoes off real quick.
Okay.
This is actually the perfect shoe. So this is like the perfect shoe to do it with. So
Okay.
what they do is when they sit them in the chair, they do this. So they get them in the chair and they're moving the legs. And what they're doing by this movement is distracting their brain, because what they're doing is they're sliding the heel out just a little bit. And so they're moving it. It's all camera trick. And so they're very convincing in this process. They're wiggling the legs, moving it in the name of Jesus, which is not even his real name. So that's always weird too. And they're moving it. And all they're doing is basically moving the shoe out. And then they get them. And I forgot what the term is called, but it's like they, well, going back to belief, I think, is that they believe that their leg is walked, and so when they get them to go up and walk, sometimes it's just all staged. But for the people that don't know what's happening, there's a ton of videos exposing this. Like Todd White is a guy, Lifestyle Christianity, I think the name of his organization is. He's been debunked a million times, and he's notorious in street ministry for growing legs, and he's just moving the heel out. And then he tells people, oh, go walk it out. You're healed in the name of Jesus. And they're like, oh, yeah. And they're around all these people watching them. And there's something psychologically that changes, and then they believe it. But the problem is it goes back to reality sooner than later. And that is part of the problem, and it's deceptive, and it screws with people. There's all kinds of different things that take place, though. And listen, if somebody puts their faith in some of those things, like getting cured from cancer or being healed, I am not going to discount our Creator and say that he couldn't heal them, because I believe he can. But I don't think these men at these churches are the ones that are doing it. And another thing too, the way that, and this is, I'm embarrassed for not knowing this enough to walk away then. But I remember when, because I went through deliverances, which are basically another form of exorcism. I've been through 6 of them, because I try to get rid of my sexuality. I try to get rid of DID. I try to get rid of all the things that were wrong with me, and nothing was working. So I tried the deliverances. Baptism by fire is a thing. And then, baptism by fire. Oh, praying in tongues. So one of the things that they do when you get baptized by fire, then you can have prayer language, which is praying in tongues. But here's the thing. They give classes to teach you how to pray in tongues. There's your sign. Classes, if the Holy Spirit is in me, why would I need to be trained in how to pray in tongues? That's the first question. Then, but I'm like, okay, I'm praying. I feel the Holy Spirit on me. Okay, why isn't my tongue moving? Like, why is it going? It's not doing that. But, well, you just got to do it in faith. Do what in faith? Wiggle my tongue? But I thought it was the Holy Spirit. Well, you got to activate the Holy Spirit. But I feel the Holy Spirit. Well, wait a second. Like, come on. So you just got to do it in faith. So wait a second. So I'm just supposed to go, what? What did I say? Nothing. I sounded like I was on acid and shrooms at the same time. No, that is not the Holy Spirit. But here's the thing that's screwed up. I still do it. If I don't know what to pray about, I just start going like I'm speaking French or something, but I just do it. And then my brain kicks in to go, oh, I'm going to pray about that person. But I'm doing it because it was like beat into my head, because I was made to feel so uncomfortable around all of these people that were praying in tongues, and they were doing it so easily. I thought that was my faith not real? Am I still demon possessed? Like, what am I going to do? And it messed me up. So then I just started doing it because I needed their approval. I needed to know I was doing Jesus right. And I did it. And so I developed this habit. I don't do it every day, but sometimes it just comes out of me but it's not the Holy Spirit doing it. Like, it's not, it's me doing it. But it's so deceiving. And here's the thing. I still don't even know the truth about that, because maybe it is me. Maybe it is me that the Holy Spirit's not wiggling my tongue like crazy for no reason. I don't know. So it's really, really messed up. And again, I could give all of these examples, like the burning ceremonies, the blood ceremonies, that kind of stuff. It's like fucking vampires do this. Like, this is witchcraft. I mean, like when I was doing some really evil shit, this kind of reminds me of some of that and sex magic stuff, and like just it. The parallels are so close between this Holy Spirit fire and just straight demonic, and I like it's just a fine line of how do you know is this spirit that I'm praying to a spirit that's not going to go have me start eating babies and shit like that. Like it's really confusing. And I just don't think any of it's pleasing to God. It can't be because it feels like manipulation.
Well, I mean, if it feels to you like manipulation, okay, so I think we are God, though. I think I really buy into the theory of Alan Watts. Now, I don't know what to
I
do with
love
that
Alan. I
knowledge, but I
love
believe
Alan
it.
Watt.
Absolutely. So we're all one conscious, right? And so God is this conscience, right? So if it feels bad, obviously you're not pleasing God because God is you and you are God, right? And I think that's why prayer works, because when you pray, um there's this big conscience, and when you pray you're kind of like you're pulling it towards you, so
Mm,
you are doing something, like you are the conscience and you're doing it. And it also explains why prayer doesn't work well, because someone else pulled it harder, someone else wanted it, so it's kind of like every action is a reaction. Everything that happens here at the same time happens there. So it's kind of like I mean, to to me this really makes sense. Yeah, yeah. So I started to do a lot of things just by intuition, because it seemed to always be the right thing. When I
amen.
feel like something is right, when I feel like I should do something, I don't know, people can call it impulsive, but actually I'm really successful doing that, you know.
I am too. 100%. I've quit listening to man as far as what is true
Mm.
for me. I don't care what
Yeah.
you believe. I mean, and I love that you just said this. I don't I'm not the creator of this universe, but I'm the creator of mine. Like
Yeah.
I believe that God is inside all of us. I wish we would treat each other as if God was inside of us. Like we treat each other like shit. And it's
Mhm.
none of it represents God. And like I'm tired of the wars, I'm tired of the lies, I'm tired of the manipulation, being forced to put things in my body that I may question. So I've done with looking to man for their opinion about what's right for me. But here's what I know about my relationship with God is that I may think something is right for me, or I may like, hey, this is good. And I'm walking that out and I'm living that life. God has a funny way of correcting my steps, so to speak. Like I may think something is right, and then all of a sudden, boom, get hit in the face. So okay, all right, maybe that's not the right decision for me. Maybe I shouldn't do that. And then I have the choice. Do I listen to that warning, or do I just keep on going and doing what I think I should do, or doing whatever I want? And then I get another warning. Boom. It's a little bit harder that time. You still not going to listen? Well, I learned to listen a long time ago because I made a wreck of my life. And so now I started listening. But I'm listening to God, not what a book says, not what social media says, not what my pastor says, not even what my partner said. Well, I do listen to her, but I don't accept it as truth unless if I know it's true for me. So yeah, we're aligned on that 100%.
So it's kind of like a question, not how do you know something is true, but do you feel it as truth, right? Because if you feel it as true, and it's really hard to describe because it's a feeling that it's undescribable. It's like explaining red color to a blind person. When something is true, you just feel it,
Hmm.
right? So yeah, it's interesting. And also, it's really in my life, as I think back now, it's funny. You can only connect the dots looking backwards, right? Like you cannot do it looking forwards. Every time I fail at something, then something better happens, and I fail at something and I'm like, how the fuck is something good gonna come out of that? Like this, I
Yeah.
mean, this is a failure. This is a failure. But then after a while, something happens. I'm looking back and I'm like, holy shit, that was connected in that way. God, you did it again. Universe, you are more intelligent than me. take the wheel. I'm done. I'm done, man. You are the master of this motherfucker. You are the creator. I didn't see that coming, but you did it. That was genius. You got me again, you know? So every failure is like, oh, I can't wait what creative stuff he's gonna do now, you know?
It's I there's so much power in surrender. And like and to splinter off of that is it's like everything we've been taught or told, it's the opposite. Like this world that we live in is a paradox. Like to live, you've got to die to yourself, to, you know, I mean, all of these little things. And it's very, very interesting how that works and that plays out. But I am never more powerful than when I surrender. Like at my surrender point, that is when I'm my most powerful. When I release and I trust, I'm my most powerful. But when I'm holding on to resentment, when I'm holding on to anger, when I'm have hatred in my heart, hence why I don't want to lash out at people. I don't want to hurt your feelings. I could, and it would feel good for about 10 seconds, absolutely dismantling your ideology and your beliefs and destroying them and making you go home to cry. That I would enjoy it for 10 seconds. And then I would go, oh God, I'm so sorry. Will you please forgive me? I really didn't mean that. I'm sorry. I mean, yeah, I did mean it when I said it, but I really wish I didn't say it because I didn't need to say it. And that wasn't right of me. Like, I don't want to do that, but I think it.
That's why mantra is important. I think
Ooh.
it's easy for me to let go, but it's hard for me to stay consistent without reminding myself of it. So every day I have to remind myself, let go of control, let go, just surrender. You know, it's a habit. You need to remind yourself on a daily. I think this is why. I mean, it's not something that you just decide to do. Okay, I'm going to surrender now. No, because sooner or later you're going to want that control back. You want to control things, right? So it's really important to remind yourself of that every day. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I train myself that every time something looked really shitty, like, oh boy, I'm going to regret doing that, or whatever it may be. Thy will be done. Thy will be done. And sometimes I have to say it 50 times to get it out of my head, but thy will be done. Thy will be done. Thy will be done. And just keep on moving. And that so far has worked for me pretty well. So, I mean, yeah, I have to go back and apologize sometimes, but I'm surrendering the outcome because I don't feel like it's really in my hands anyway.
Yeah. Now, a good mantra is also where you sit, like you're meditating, and you close your eyes and you tell yourself over and over again for like, I don't know how much, but after 15 minutes, you'll be just done. So you tell yourself, everything is exactly what it seems. Everything is the opposite of what it seems. Everything is exactly what it seems. Everything is the opposite of what it seems. And it is exactly what it seems. And then you say that and you say it and you say it, and you're like, after 15 minutes, like, whoa, what is reality? You know? Yeah, and also it helps you, I think, just living in the present moment. It really helps you when you let go of control. Now you can live, because like thinking about the past and the future, it's a rejection of life in a way, right? Because life happens in the present. This is where life is. And so, I mean, just thinking about the future is a rush to death, you know, because I mean, who is to say that you're not already living in heaven and just making a mess out of it, you know? Like you decide you're gonna, okay, this is how I'm gonna feel. I'm gonna live in the present, because you never suffer in the present. Never. Never. You may be in pain, but that's physical. Suffering is something you inflict upon yourself in your mind. So in the present, never. Right now, look, I slept. I'm not hungry. I feel good. I'm warm. You know, I only start suffering when I think about what happened or about the future, which is a figment of my imagination anyway, because it never happens that way, how I think it's going to happen. So living in the present, like you're not suffering, you're living. Letting go of control is living, you know?
I love that. I heard something this morning that reminded me of another thing that I heard that impacted my life a big time. Well, it started with the blessing is in the breaking. But I was listening to TD Jakes. It was at this church in San Diego. It was right before I moved to San Diego. and he was promoting his book Soar. But he said the blessing was in the breaking. That made me cry. But the thing that I loved the most, that has been a great brain hack for me, was focus on the things or that you do have and not what you don't. And he used this example of an airplane. Airplane's flying. All of a sudden, a wing breaks off. Like, oh crap! Oh my god! And the pilot has a choice. The pilot can go, oh shit, we're gonna die! Oh my god! Everyone start praying, we're gonna die, we're not gonna live. Or I got one wing. I'm gonna land this plane. I'm gonna get us home. I'm grateful for this one wing. And that's probably an extreme example, but to apply it to our own lives, it becomes incredibly simple, because I can look at the fact that I'm not doing a world tour yet. I can look at the fact that, I blah, 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 blah. I could I could look at all that. But really, when I really start to look around at what I have, I'm like, wow, God's really brought me a long way since I was homeless. God has really brought me a long way since I was in jail. God has, since divorce and bankruptcy and blah, blah, blah. I can go on. And to look around, I've got an amazing partner. I've got 2 amazing little girls. And my dreams are coming true. But that doesn't come without gratitude for what I have, being a good steward of what I have and what I've been blessed with, and then using it responsibly. I wasn't like that before. And that's why, I go from having $1 million in the bank to being homeless, because I was a piece of crap and making bad decisions, wasn't being a good steward, snorting and having sex with everything. I mean, just doing all the things, not being a good steward of what I'd been blessed with. So it got all taken away. And little by little over the last few years, my life has been restored, and things are happening now for me like they haven't happened before. But that doesn't happen without gratitude, and it doesn't happen without being true to myself, not true to other people. I mean, being as honest with other people, but being true to myself and owning up to who I really am. And that meant is, even as a man of God, even being on the stage as an evangelist, being honest about having HIV, being honest about being bisexual or sexually fluid, being honest about, the struggles that I still have with mental health, being honest about those things, so that I'm not up there portraying that I'm some guy that knows every word of the Bible and I live by every second of it and I'm doing everything it says and I'm righteous and holy and you're going to hell. And no, I'm not going to do that, because I know that none of that's true. And I wanted to be honest. It's probably why I don't belong in ministry, but that was me. And because I chose to be that, that's why things have gone in the direction that they have. And it's humbling, and I'm grateful for that. And that's why I've kind of evolved into this place where before I felt like I needed to go out and evangelize all of these people and bring them to Jesus and all that other stuff. I don't think that that's what we're supposed to do at all. I think we're supposed to let our lives be the example that we want to set. And if people want to know more and they look at you to go, how did you turn on your life? How do you function with DID? How do you have a healthy relationship when you have HIV? These things, I let my life attract that. I don't need to go out and tell you that you're a sinner and you need help, or need to go out and tell you that, hey, Jesus is going to change your life. I mean, someone come up and say that to me now, I'd punch them in the face. Who are you to come put that on me? I didn't ask you to come share your opinions or your thoughts with me. Maybe I'm not in the space to hear that. Well, God told me to tell you. Did he really? Really? I mean, do you know God is a man? What if God doesn't have a gender at all? There's so many things like that I'm glad I've shifted out of now, and I can just be, and I have much more peace about that. It scares me when people start trying to convert people, especially online, as they're fighting over scripture.
Yeah. Even if it's a priest, you're like, what the hell are you doing between me and God? Why are you here? Just move out the way. Let me talk to God. It's luxury, being dishonest with yourself. It's total luxury, and you're blessed to be living such a
Mm.
truthful life, you know. And I think this is, you know, when people have near death experiences and they experience that themselves die, and a lot of them just describe this feeling of like the biggest relief ever, because this is finally the time where they don't have to pretend about anything, they don't care about nothing, it's a bliss. And many of them, they didn't want to go back looking at their body, you know, like, I don't want to go back to that, it's a burden, you know, it's
Mm.
a burden, everything I have to keep up with that, I'm not being my truth self because what will people think and stuff, you know. It's such a liberation, and I think it's but it's super hard to get there though.
Mhm.
I am pretty much there. I am there. I need to work on it still. But it's such a luxury. I mean, like, this is true wealth, you know, living your truth and just being honest about who you are and everything you do and have or do not have. This is, man, this is incredible. Yeah, yeah.
What? Yeah, because what can, if you are honest, if we are honest about our mistakes and our flaws, or even the lessons that we've learned, what does anyone really have to say to you? But when we keep secrets and we hide our flaws and we try to pretend that we're something we're not, then everyone's got ammo on you. What is someone going to say to me, like, for being honest? I mean, my book, The Devil Inside Me, is is so honest that all the people I hurt who read it could never say that wasn't true. Because a lot of people write books and they leave stuff out and they act like they're all honest. No, I didn't leave anything out. And it sure as hell doesn't make me look like a good person. In fact, I would say that that book has probably caused me more problems than good. But here's the thing. I'm free. And while I cannot change any of the bad things I did, I can live my life in a certain way moving forward. And as I have, that can reverse some of that damage and do more good. And my goal in life, like, I'm looking at death as a gift. Like,
Mhm.
I don't need to go through this again. Like, I'm going to learn my lessons now because I don't want to have to relive this. If that's a real thing, reincarnation, I sure as hell don't want to go do this all over again. But I'm glad that I've done it. And I'm glad that I'm doing it the way that I'm doing it. I'm glad I'm taking on these lessons so I can learn, because I truly am at this point in my life that if I died today, I know that I could be proud of what has happened in my life, because I didn't think I'd still be here. I didn't think I would never be given another chance. I don't think I would I didn't think that I would actually do the work to change my life. And I just didn't think that was possible, but I wanted to, and I was serious about it, because having that revelation that I had that day, and I was in isolation in LA County Jail, facing 5 years, and the revelations that I had in that moment uh, really changed things for me and helped me see what I'd made of my life, and also all the lies that I had told myself. One of them being how much I hated my dad. And it wasn't a lie that I hated my dad, because I hated him. But my reasons for hating my dad were pretty damn hypocritical, considering that everything I hated him for, I became, but and actually worse. And that revelation, that realization helped me have compassion for a man I hated, and then ultimately forgive. And at the same time, I was able to get forgiveness for myself. And that's what set things off for me in a way that's allowed me to change my life. But it hadn't been easy. But I'll tell you one thing, it's been worth every second of it. So I believe, as much as I question the Bible and other things, I believe that God gives each of us that opportunity. And we all have an opportunity to take all of the wreckage of our past and use that as fuel for good. That's, you know, and I think that part of our duties as humans, like our gifts and our talents, really aren't about us. They're to bless other people with. And in the same way, when we turn our lives around, it becomes our duty to share how we did it. And no matter how severe it is, maybe my message is not for everyone. My testimony, my story isn't for everyone, but it is for someone, because there is someone that experienced the same types of abuse and trauma and neglect and other things as I did. And there's other people that struggle with mental health issues. And every single one of them, I mean, that has not found that hope, has not found their person, not found that message yet that resonates with them, they feel alone. And when you're hurting and feel alone, it's really hard to have hope. And hopeless people do really reckless things. And if anything I do in my life is I hope it gives people hope.
Yeah. When you do something you're ashamed of, no matter how bad it is, it's an obligation to speak up, right? Because like there's someone out there, there's a reason why this happened to you. You're strong enough to speak about it. You got this. That's why it happened to you, not somebody else. Now you have to do it. And when you were sitting in that cell, I think like physically, just this solitary confinement, physically you're in a room, but actually you're in your mind, right? It's a representation of your mind. This is where you really are when you're in that cell. It's not that you're behind four walls or whatever and going crazy. It's not the walls. It is not the walls. It's your mind. Now everything is taken away, all the distractions. Everything you have is your mind, and now you can see what's in there. For a lot of people, this is the first time they're opening this Pandora box. If I take away the TV shows and the people and social media, what is actually in here? Like, what is in there? What is in the mind? And they're shocked, and some people just cannot take it, you know?
It's a lot. There's one of my favorite, I'm not quoting this exactly, but it's in the Gospel of Thomas, and it talks about like seeking truth, and it says when you find the truth, you're going to be disturbed. It's gonna wreck you. It's gonna haunt you, and then you'll be set free. And it sticks with me because it's so true. And because and here in the last, I think the year especially, it's accelerated, where every day I'm finding out something that I believed to be true, or was told was true, or accepted was true, was absolute bullshit. And I learn a new truth, and those new truths are absolutely disturbing. And it's confusing, and it kind of wrecks me a little bit, and then I feel free after that. And I feel like a boulder fell off my shoulders at the same time. It's a beautiful thing. I gotta real quick, the lion. I love the lion behind you. What does that mean to you?
Well, the lion, like to be completely honest with you, yeah, it is like a sign of courage and bravery or whatever. But I just got this line, when I moved in here, I was in a store and I was like, "Oh, that's a really good picture of a lion." And it's really big. I don't know, like right now it doesn't look like it, but it's like almost through the whole wall. So I was like, I gotta have this. Yeah, I noticed.
I got a
Yeah.
black one over there too. Yeah, it means something to me for sure too. Wow, man. Okay, here's the thing. We got to do this again.
I'm down.
I'm so happy that I read on your profile on Matchmaker, and not a dating website, people.
Matchmaker.fm. I always like to put that out there. We
It's not
Matchmaker.
Match.com. But when I read that you love Joe Rogan-style, I'm like, oh, this is like the perfect guest, because these are my favorite types of broadcasts. I don't want to have a focused conversation. I just want to have a conversation. So I'm so grateful for you. I hope that we do this again. And I think you're wonderful. And please take these last minutes, however long you want, plug everything you want to plug, promote anything you want to promote, and share any last words that are on your heart. The floor is yours.
I don't really want to promote anything, honestly. I just, just people listening to people listening to this podcast. I feel like I don't know, I've talked to a lot of people who are like this radical left and radical right, and people who on paper disagree so much. I've talked to both of these types of people. they agree on a lot of fundamentals. Nobody, like, let's take poverty, right? Nobody goes out there says, hey, I'm for poverty, go hunger, you know? Everyone wants the best for everyone, you know? So it's, to me, it's amazing how alike we actually are. You can take someone who, like, you hate their guts, you know, and then just from the time they were born to now, you know, you guys are so much alike. You know how sometimes they say the more you hate a person, the more you're like them? You guys
Mhm.
are like, we're so like, so much like other people. It's just that, I don't know, you know, I guess it's different bodies, different traumas, you know, we've experienced different stuff, but like in our hearts, I think we all have love, every one of us. And I think this is something that you have to keep in mind as you go throughout the day. You know, what other people tell you or do to you or whatever, sometimes it doesn't even have to do anything with you, you know. It's just them, and love them for them and wish the best, you know, like God bless you, you know. I was like the other day, I'm just gonna tell you this little story and then we'll finish. But I was at a bank, and the lady was a bitch. She was, you know, she was looking at me like, okay, okay, let's do this. Okay, well, okay, but then you're gonna have to do this because this is not gonna work. And she was like, she was a total dick ass. You know, I was like, gosh, man, you're bitter. Why are you so bitter? You know, but I was quiet. And then her coworker came and she got up and they hugged. And the coworker told her, oh, my condolences. And she started crying. And it took all my resentment away, all my anger. In a second, it was gone. Wow, someone close to her died today or yesterday, and she was crying. She was not a bitch anymore, but I wouldn't care. I was like, you know what? You do you, man. It's all good. It's all good. I already forgot about it. So yeah, just be nice to other people, you know, some love. It's the only thing we have to transcend this suffering.
That's good. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah. Alrighty then. Well, let's do a part two. Thank you so
Definitely.
much, man. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you.
Alrighty. Bye bye.